Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. There was a huge changelog today, along with an fix, so I thought we would go through it, since it does actually fix a lot of bugs from the major updates. We've had so many different little bug fixes for the major updates, it's kind of surprising. I can't remember a time where we've had so many changelogs and so many different things changed, but I suppose we also had the April Fool's event, where they've done a bunch of balance changes with that, and a few tinkers which have made it a lot more fun to play. But in the major update, there was still stuff which needed looked at. The first one was fuel sliders. The fuel sliders were just not working, and this was one of the problems that many people ran into, including myself, because it's a system that was hyped. It was a system that was looked forward to for a long time by many people, including myself. And if it doesn't work, then there's not really much point in it. And there was so many ways that you could break it. Basically, the amount of fuel could be reset in the fuel slider after changing air crews, after pressing escape in the weapon selection menu, before a battle, and also after the end of a battle. So basically, it could just reset at any point, apart from during the time when you're using the vehicle. So this basically meant that you just couldn't spawn in with the amount of fuel that you wanted. Even if you'd picked the correct fuel, there's a lot of time where it just wouldn't work and it just wouldn't give you the right amount of fuel. So hopefully now they fixed all of those things, because let's be honest, that was one of the most annoying bugs in the major updates. The fact that you had this huge hyped mechanic that, you know, a lot of people have been looking forward to for many years, and it just didn't work. So it was just one of those weird things. And also coupled with the change to how afterburners work with the different stages, it was going to come in and it was going to be a big thing, but never really made it because of it being really buggy. So hopefully now it's fixed, so it should work for people properly, which is fantastic. The next thing is periodic countermeasures. Periodic countermeasures are supposed to work while in overload. Basically, the idea is they did work in stuff like test flights, where even if you were fully overloaded and lost consciousness of your pilot, you would fire your periodic countermeasures. The problem is, for some reason in live battles, if you went overloaded, your periodic countermeasures would stop. So now, if you are using periodic countermeasures, which I highly recommend, by the way, people have a button for, just because of the fact that it's much easier to use than just spamming flares whenever you need to. But yeah, now while your pilot is overloaded, it will not change the effects of the periodic firing of the countermeasures. So if you're already firing them before your pilot is overloaded, they'll continue to fire if he's overloaded, and then if you aren't firing them, then he won't. So once again, a big change, which for some reason was working in some areas, but not others. The aiming reticle and also mouse circle fix. So this one's kind of an odd one, and I feel like it's probably been around for a very long time, way longer than this last update. But basically, when controlling an aircraft with mouse aiming mode, the game tried to match the longitudinal axis of the aircraft with the cursor. Because of this, the aircraft where the aiming axis had an angular displacement vertically, when rolling the gun sight moved left and right, which was not convenient. You may have seen this when you've been kind of wandering around. It affects a decent amount of vehicles, some more than others, but you'll have like this wobble that planes will do, and that's what it's talking about, where it'll just wobble slightly from side to side, and that's because it's trying to match up the mouse aim with the center of the cursor, but it can't do it properly, so instead it just kind of wobbles while trying. The game now takes into account the vertical angular displacement of the sight relative to the longitudinal axis of the aircraft, which means that the direction of flight is set by matching the aiming reticle with the mouse cursor, which is more intuitive. So you shouldn't get as many bobbles around, which is fantastic. They've also fixed the naval vessel hit cam. This was very evident during the Imperial flagship event. Basically, the remaining buoyancy of a target just wasn't there on the hit cam, so you couldn't tell how much a vehicle was sinking. That absolutely sucked, because it was just very hard to kind of tell, you know, if you'd actually done critical damage in that area to a vehicle. But luckily now it's back, so it's back on the little hit cam, and then also the main caliber gun counter in the hit camera does not take into account aircraft catapults. Of course, this was something that wasn't happening. Now they are going to be included in the main caliber count now, so that's really good, and hopefully it can be going forward. I still find it weird how the Furutaka has a hydroplane, by the way, but the other 5.7 cruiser doesn't have a hydroplane, even though they're both set up for it. Not entirely sure what's going on there. Maybe that'll be changed going forward. But yeah, there's a bunch of other ones, a bunch of other bug fixes in update 2.35.1.40. Basically, there was a ton of stuff with the fuel loads, but also with some individual vehicles. So the F-14A and also the F-14B, there was a bug where the radar display on the RWR was shifted. That's been fixed, which is good. And also on the Gripen, the JAS-39C, there was a bug that caused the underwing drop tanks to always be displayed in X-ray mode, and that has also been fixed too. And the J7E, there was a bug that caused the underwing drop tanks to always be displayed as well. And also the H-Mark 1 Apache, there was a bug that caused the Starstreak missiles to not display the authorized launch zone, and that's been fixed. I wonder if people are still using that thing as a first spawn. So one of the funny things back in the day was they talked about like helicopter efficiencies and how good certain ones were compared to others, and it was really interesting because the AH Mark 1 Apache was the most efficient helicopter out of all of them. And nobody could really work out why, because it was the time of the K-50, it was obviously the time of the UHT and stuff like that. And it's basically because it gets Starstreaks and it could first spawn, you could take off, you could use the Starstreaks not as just an anti-air missile, but also as an anti-ground missile. So anything that had light armor, or anything that was side-on, or maybe through above, you could just pop them. And a lot of people were doing that, but you just didn't really see it too often, because it was such a niche kind of playstyle. And yeah, I don't know if you could still do that anymore. I'm guessing you can, but I'm not entirely sure. For ground vehicles, there's a bunch of changes too. The AMX-10RC gets 20 more horsepower to 280 horsepower. The Object 775 has 1 more km/h maximum top speed. Huge numbers. It's now 66. The TOG-2, the hull collision at the front of the tracks and side machine guns have been fixed. I'm guessing there was probably an issue with the upgrade where it wasn't really working properly. The M113A1 tow and also the CM25 and M901, the transmission gear ratios have been clarified. All those vehicles are so sad. Like, I don't know how many of you guys have played those vehicles, but the M901 is okay, I suppose. The CM25 has its uses, but the general tow vehicles are so sad to be around. And I'm dreading spading the next one. I think I have the one for Italy to do, and I'm just not looking forward to it. The Tor M1, the number of minimum revolutions has been increased from 500 to 800, and the engine power has been reduced from 840 to 780 horsepower, so we'll have to see how that affects stuff. The ADATs, both ADATs actually now have some interesting stuff. Basically, they have -10 plus 85, so they actually have a bunch of kind of launcher depression now, so there'll be better anti-tank vehicles. The Panzer IIIB, the engine power has been increased to 265 horsepower, so it should motor a little bit more. The SDKFC 62 has gone up to 130 horsepower, and the Hellcats once again have been buffed, which is good. They removed a bunch of engine power from the Hellcats back in the day. No idea why, but now it's back up again. So they're, instead of 400 horsepower, they're at 460 horsepower. So that will return them to their former glory. And if you haven't played the Hellcats, by the way, they're really fun. They're very, very good at just moving around and having a good time. Highly recommend them if you haven't given them a go. The N36 GMC, the maximum top speed has been increased from 42 to 48 kilometers an hour. The M4A2 on all of the variants and the 76 variants, the maximum top speed has been set to 46.67 kilometers an hour. So there you go. The T62M1 has also been reduced top speed by 5 kilometers an hour to 50. And the A13s, the Mark 1s and the 2s, the turret rotation speed has been increased from 16 degrees per second to 36. My God, they're really doing a lot of historical kind of fixes here, which is kind of nuts. The AC1, the maximum RPM has been upped by about 550 RPM, which has led to 3 kilometers an hour maximum top speed increase, but the reverse speed has been reduced by 0.8 kilometers an hour. The Stug 3, A and F, the frontal armor is now 50 millimeters instead of 30. That kind of reminds me, we haven't had a set of BR changes in a while. I wonder when we'll get those. It'd be kind of nice to see. Hopefully they can kind of set it up. The KV-85, the maximum top speed has been increased to 42 kilometers an hour instead of 34. KV-85 is a very undervalued vehicle. It has a huge weak spot on the front, meaning that it can't really be used as a heavy tank, but even just as a medium, it's completely fine. The Panzer IV CF1, the SDKFC 2519, the Nobelfahrzeug, the Stug 3A, and also the Panzer 3N, and the SDKFC 2343, the mass of the KGR ROT PZ projectile has been increased by 0.02 kilos. So a huge amount. It's going to make a massive difference. The band cannon, or the Bazooka cannon, the 1C, the horizontal guidance angles have been increased from 10 to 15 degrees. That's actually huge for the vehicle. The vertical angles have also been increased, so it has a bit more gun depression and a bit more gun elevation. And the actual speed of the vertical guidance has been reduced, though, but not a ton. That's going to be really good for the vehicle, though. Its horizontal guidance is its main issue, and the fact that it's slightly better now is fantastic. The IKV-103, there was incorrect pressure damage caused to the crew through the radiator and fuel tanks. That thing is still trash, like it's a terrible vehicle. The Calliope, there was also incorrect pressure damage caused to the crew through the rocket launcher. And my guess is people were shooting it and it was just blowing up the crew. The Sturm S, Chrysanthema S, and also Swingfire and Type 60 ATM. There was incorrect pressure damage caused by the crew by the external ATGMs. I thought that wasn't incorrect. Basically, you could shoot the ATGMs and the vehicle would pop. So the idea is you're setting off the ATGM and it will kill the crew. On stuff like the Sturm, they're literally in a very, very, very small-armed box. So I'm kind of surprised that that doesn't work properly, but no, never mind, it doesn't matter. A bug that caused ground vehicle decorations to float in the air when changing ground vehicle models has been fixed, and also a bug that caused the point of the formation of fragments from HESH rounds fired at volumetric armor at large angles to be incorrectly determined has been fixed too. Also, the SAV 2012-48 and Chad 25T, there was a bug where once the first stage ammo rack emptied, a shell could instantly appear back into it has been fixed. Yeah, I mean, that just makes those vehicles, which are pretty deadly, even more deadly. There was also a bug in the stat cards for some armor-piercing shells that displayed incorrect armor penetration at an impact angle of 60 degrees, that's been fixed too, and a bug that caused the camera to turn 180 degrees when exiting sniper mode while looking horizontally while on water has been fixed too. What a weird bug to exist. And also a bug that caused HESH shells to create fragments on the back of composite armor packages made with volumetric armor has been fixed too. You know what's funny about HESH? So I am, in fact, a HESH hater. I'm done with HESH. I've been done with HESH for many years. Because what ends up happening is a bunch of people go around and tell you that HESH has been buffed or HESH is much better now. And then you use it and it's still trash. There are a few HESHs that work, and usually they are massive rounds, like the FV4005. And if that round was that size but any other thing, it would also just work. Like if it was just a standard HE. But no, I get gaslit all the time about HESH, and how, oh, it's so good now. But it just isn't. It just is not. If you have another opportunity, use a different round. Then, in naval vessels, you have the Dassault. They've changed the firing angles for the 20mm anti-aircraft guns. They changed the name of the projectile modification of the 76mm Mark 10 American gun. The Mark 33 and Mark 34 have been added, so you'll have to respade a bunch of stuff. The Dealy! There was a bug in displaying the shaft in X-ray mode. That's been fixed, which is good. And also, there was a bug where the number of shells replenished at a capture point exceeded the number taken into battle by the player has been fixed. God damn it. That's funny. So basically, you take in, I don't know, like 30 shells, and then you just keep getting more and more back. I think that's quite fun. Also in ground realistic battles, the principle of determining large caliber rockets for calculating the cost of helicopter armament has been changed. Now non-aircraft rockets with an explosive mass of more than 7 kilos in TNT equivalent are considered large caliber. Therefore large caliber rockets, the S-13 and 24, will now also include the Zuni Mark 32. Oh, fantastic. Well, that's going to fix all of the issues with CAS at high tiers. Don't worry, we've been once again saved by the greatness. I don't know if you guys have played higher BRs recently. I've been playing a lot of 10.0, a lot of 10.3, a lot of 8.7, a lot of 9.0. My god, at 10.0 and 10.3, since the missile nerf to a lot of those SPAAs, CAS is absolutely rampant, and it's very hard to deal with. It is completely crazy. In Simulator, they've changed a few setups for certain vehicles, such as the QM506, the M3A3 Bradley, the Christian II, and also the CV90-105. So if you are interested in any of those, make sure to check them out. And also, there was a bug where all types of kinetic ammunition that hit bushes and trees cause an explosion effect at the point of impact, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, so they've fixed that. There was also a bug where the HESH ammunition that hit bushes and trees caused an explosion effect also at the point of impact, and that's been fixed too. They've also just done a ton of interface stuff too, which is around. There was a bug where part of the interface remained visible in the cutscene after dropping a nuclear bomb. That's been fixed. Talking about nukes, yesterday I had 7 battles, right? 7 battles with 8-7 Sweden. I've been spading out the T-55M. It's been quite a fun experience, actually. I've had a good time. There was 4 nukes in 7 battles. And then later in the day, there was like 3 or 4 nukes as well. It was just crazy. There was nukes all over the place. I kind of don't want that many nukes in my games. I think it would be much better. It's one or two things, right? So it's either the area of that BR range is incredibly unbalanced, so therefore certain like vehicles and certain BRs are just hammering others, which could definitely happen, or there's just too many nukes. I don't know. Maybe they have to up the spawn cost, but I think honestly, looking at the 8.7 BR, it might be the fact that they bumped up a lot of vehicles to 8.0, and they are just easy pickings for 8.7 and 9.0 vehicles. There was also a bug where the distance and the protection analysis did not affect the armor penetration of the projectile, which obviously would be a bit of a problem. There was also a bug that caused the spade symbol to not immediately appear in the crew slot. That's actually something I've noticed, which kind of sucks, but they fixed that now. Because as somebody who like tracks a lot of things through spading vehicles, if you don't have the visual, input of the spade, then it can be a bit confusing. I had to second guess myself quite a lot. There was also a bug that caused reward for winning to show in the debriefing, even if the battle was lost. Just a kick in the teeth, that one. But that's been fixed. The logic of the automatic camouflage selection depending on the location has also been changed. So now the choice of priority camouflage will be carried out in this. So Winter Forest Dark for City will be standard. Or it'll go Winter Forest Winter Forest Desert, then City, then Standard. So for example, if you have all the types of camos unlocked on your vehicle, then for winter urban locations, the winter camouflage will be selected instead of the urban one, as the case was before. There was also some Mad Thunder changes. The Strong Rhino and the Powerful Rhino. The type of explosive for the 105 shell has been changed from TNT to Comp A. The mass of explosive has been increased to 2.75 from 2.1. Didn't realize they needed a buff, but maybe this will change some of the other effects that's around. The Rhino is very good. It's very easy to get the rage in it. You just have to learn the muzzle velocity and then you're good to go. With the bore, there was a bug with the lack of pressure damage to one of the crew members in the cabin that's been fixed, so now you'll be able to bonk it, and also a bug where the localization key was shown in the action panel in the tooltip of the rage scanner has been fixed. I'm kind of glad that I'm done with the April Fool's event, even though I did enjoy it as it was going along. The fact that there were so many changes to it, it was kind of hard to adapt. And I think all the changes have been positive, by the way. It's just, adapting playstyle. My tips to you is to go for Rage, and all of the other stuff will come along as you do it. So focus on getting all of the Rage for the prizes, and then work on the materials if you need them afterwards. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pieman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Alan Hacker, Ozzy Panzer, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Cam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.